Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Primary Arms 3X full-size magnifier. But before we get into that, if you like saving money on cool stuff, then you should probably be checking out gun.deals. Now, gun.deals is just a website that compiles some of the best deals within the industry. So whatever it is that you're looking for, they probably have a link to it for the best possible price. Now, they don't take your money, they don't buy or sell anything. Once again, they can only point you in the right direction. So again, if you like saving money on cool stuff, then go ahead and check out gun.deals. Now, if you want to help out the YouTube channel specifically, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as all that sort of stuff is free and it does help us out quite a bit. And on top of that, go ahead and comment literally anything down below. Now, full disclosure on the Primary Arms 3X full-size magnifier is that I am a dealer for Primary Arms optics, so while they did not send this optic out to us for review, I did get it at a discounted price. So I bought the magnifier and the mount, which are currently sold separately. And so I did pay my own money for them, but again, they are at a reduced dealer price. Now, getting into some of the basic specs on the magnifier itself, it is a aluminum body construction, as is very standard. We have 6061 T6 aluminum hard coat black anodization. It is a little bit bigger of a body style, as you can probably tell. It's definitely not a micro. They do have a micro version of it, but in general, I like full-size magnifiers, as we'll get into a little bit later on. The eye relief on this model is 2.8 inches, which sounds very low, but again, for a 3X magnifier, for a prism magnifier, that's actually very, very good. Now, the benefit of having a longer, full-size magnifier is that mechanically increases your eye relief, right? Because if you shorten up the body by 1.5 inches and maintain the same 2.8 inches of eye relief, then you have to pull your face that extra 1.5 inches difference with a shorter, more micro style magnifier. So even though this has the same eye relief as the micro and some other micro style optics or magnifiers on the market, because it is a much longer body which mechanically pushes that eye relief further back, you can have your stock in a very natural position without having to crane your head forward when you flip it over into the magnified position. Now, on top of what I consider a good eye relief, that combined again with the mechanical extension of the magnifier itself, you also have a very, very good field of view at 40.5 feet at 100 yards. That is a very, very good field of view for a magnifier. That is close to the top end of this price range. I believe the Holosun HM3X has a field of view of 37 feet, so this is a little bit better than that, and this is also a little bit better than the Vortex 3X Micro as well. So within this price category of around the $200 for a magnifier, and depending on the mount you get, because you can actually get different mounts for this optic. Now, because of the chunkier full-size body, of course, that is going to be a detriment when we talk about weight, because this does weigh 8.5 ounces by itself. That does not include the mount. Now, the mount, which we might as well talk about, is a somewhat industry standard 2-bolt mounting design. It's a very, very high quality mount. It is very, very rigid, and I believe they charge like $75 or something like this for the retail price. And it is compatible with certain other mounts on the market, but we went with a Primary Arms mount just to kind of keep it all the same. The mount itself adds, I believe, another 3 ounces. So the total package is actually closer to 12 ounces for the full-size magnifier, which is fairly heavy. And especially when we combine that with something like the Vortex AMG UH1 Gen 2, that's a long name, lovingly referred to as the Huey, we get a very heavy overall package. This is something like 21, 22 ounces for a red dot or a holographic sight in this case, and a 3X magnifier, which is getting towards the lighter end of LPVOs. You can get LPVO mounts in the low 20 ounce range, and this is going to be very, very similar to that. However, we have the advantage of actually having a true 1X optic, which for some people is well worth the downside and complexity, because we do have now 4 panes of glass versus 2. But again, we'll get into all of that a little bit later on. Overall, the feature set on the Primary Arms 3X optic is very, very good. Now, briefly talking about the mount again, it uses a double set screw design. It has very, very large, very strong cross bolts, and I'll actually go ahead and take that off for you guys so you guys can see it a little bit bit better. So here is the magnifier and mount by itself, so you guys can kind of get a better idea of what it looks like. So on the bottom of the mount, we do again have two very large substantial cross bolts, which is very nice. That means you're going to be able to get a lot of torque on your rail and a good concentric amount of pressure over a large surface area, which is nice. It also has an integrated recoil lug, not super important on something that's not going to retain zero or matter if it really loses zero, but it is again another nice feature to see, and it is going to create more contact surface between the mount and the rail. So it is a nice feature, not necessarily needed on a magnifier though. The magnifier arm mount is a detent system, so it is buttonless, which is very nice. That is the way all magnifier mounts should be. And this mount in particular is very, very strong. It requires a good amount of force, maybe a tiny bit more amount of force than you would preferably like to see. You got to be a little bit more forceful with it, though I do think that that is the proper way to do it. You're not necessarily concerned with ultimate speed, but you do want it to be secure. When you lock it down into a position, you want it to stay there until you want it to move one way or the other. So personally, it does take a lot of tension, a lot of force to move it from the over position to the out of position. And that is a very good thing, because that means that it's going to be very, very secure on your rail. Now, this is of course reversible. You simply take out the two screws on the bottom and then flip the magnifier around, and you can have it flip to the other side. So it is very, very easily reversible. On top of that, as you might be able to tell right now, I do have the riser plate. So I believe it starts out life at an absolute, which is a 1.45, 1.43, something like that. And then with the 0.2 inch riser plate, takes it up to a lower 1/3. For most of the optics that I'm running and have tested this behind, the lower 1/3 or the riser plate works the best, though you can make this work with a variety of different optics on the market. And because it does use a somewhat standard mounting pattern, I believe this is compatible with like the new Vortex magnifiers as well. Because of that, you can find risers and different height mounts for this magnifier if you wanted it to run with something of a little bit more interesting height, like a tall, like 1.7, 1.9, 2.2 or something crazy like that. So overall, the mount design is very, very good. It uses a good, strong amount of force to be able to flip it in and out of position, which I quite like. The one thing I will say about that is during testing in below freezing temperatures, the detent did feel like it almost locked up at a couple places where it was very, very difficult to get it in and out of position. And that was also while it was brand new as well. So there's some kind of break-in as you open and close it, because over time it will get weaker as the detent and the material kind of wears together. It will of course get easier and easier. It's kind of basically just a wear component. And you will notice a little bit more aggressive wear on where it actually indexes with the detent, and that where there's some finish and material removed from the initial break-in period, I suppose. But it is again a very, very strong, very secure lockup. When you're shooting with this on the on or off position, there is no wobble, no movement in the magnifier whatsoever, and that is a problem on like the Holosun HM3X. The magnifier does have a little bit of wobble under recoil, whereas with this, which is using a much stronger detent system, is much more solid during recoil when running and gunning and doing different stuff like that, which is an improvement. Now, we do have external adjustments on here. They don't really affect zero. What they are used for is to center the reticle in the center of the glass, so it's not like jarring and it's up in the top right corner or something like that. We do have half MOA adjustments. Again, in a magnifier, not all that important. What you really want to do is make sure that first off your optic is zeroed, and then you kind of center that optic or that reticle within the glass itself. In the back, we do have a rear diopter if you want to adjust the way the reticle looks to your eyes. Again, it's going to be different for every person, so having that will allow you to make the reticle as crisp and clear as possible. So the magnifier mount itself, they did a very good job designing it. It is a very secure lockup to the rail. On top of that, the detent system requires a proper amount of force, an appropriate amount of force, and they lock down very, very securely. On top of that, you have a very decent eye relief for a full-size magnifier, a prism magnifier. Again, you're not really going to be able to get like a normal LPVO, like 3.5, 4, 5 inches of eye relief on a magnifier like this. So 2.8 is definitely usable, and especially since it's a little bit longer of a magnifier, it is fairly forgiving. Now, with all that being said, how is the glass quality on it? And I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. The glass quality on this magnifier will hold up with any overseas made magnifier. The Vortex Mini, the Holosun HM3X, all of them are very similar in terms of their glass quality. What I will say about this glass is it does have a bigger field of view, which is nicer. It is just a little bit more forgiving. You can see a little bit more of that magnified image. You're getting more information. And on top of that, the reticle, or not the reticle, sorry, there isn't a reticle. The glass itself is crisp, it's bright, it's very, very good. It's not what I would consider like high-end glass like you're gonna find on like your EOTechs and other magnifiers like that. But this is going to go toe-to-toe just fine with any other overseas made magnifier, and so the glass quality is on par, if not a little bit better than some of those other magnifiers within the same price category. So here we have it mounted back up on our Leadstar Arms Grunt 3. This is actually a very decent rifle that we will be talking about soon. Go ahead and make sure that our AMG Huey is on. And the eye relief on it, again, is very forgiving. The glass quality is good. It takes a decent amount of force to get the magnifier from one side to the other, but that is a good thing, and you will be able to see me in some of the B-roll. Again, still being able to get it over quickly, though it does take some force. Now, some people are always going to bring back their left hand, which is their strong. They're going to have the most leverage in this position versus trying to lift up from right here. It's a little bit more difficult, still doable, especially if you really put some force into it. But overall, I think that the only downside of this magnifier is that it is a little bit more bulky, a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier than some of the other magnifiers on the market. But again, when we're talking about a full-size gun like this is a 16-inch rifle, I don't mind the extra size and weight, and it's still going to be right around the same weight as I would get with an LPVO. But again, I have the advantage of having a true perfect 1X with a holographic reticle with the AMG UH-1 Gen 2. And again, the only time where I would really not want a full-size magnifier is if I was very limited on rail space, like let's say a shorter PCC or some other like a micro compact gun where you don't really have a full-size rail and you're limited in terms of your rail space. Then maybe if I wanted to still run a magnifier, I would have to go with something that's a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter. Though again, the weight on a full-size gun does not really bug me, especially for the added performance, the good eye relief, the good field of view, that sort of thing. I'm really not sacrificing all that much. So again, unless you're someone who is really trying to shave down ounces and you're limited on space, I think full-size magnifiers are generally speaking the way to go. And again, unless you fall into some of those other categories, and the Primary Arms 3X full-size magnifier is a very, very good choice. In fact, I would say that it is better than my Holosun HM3X that I really like as well. But again, depending on price, I would say they're very, very similar. The Holosun HM3X does come with a magnifier for around $200, and if you can find it cheaper than $200, that's a really, really good deal. So overall, I think Primary Arms did a very good job. They even have certain magnifiers with the ACSS Pegasus reticle, which is like an auto ranging feature built into the magnifier itself. And in the future, we might try and get the 3X Micro with the ACSS Pegasus reticle in for review and see how that stacks up to the competition. But for right now, I think the Primary Arms 3X full size is an excellent magnifier, especially for the cost. Performs very, very well. Good eye relief, good field of view, good glass. The mount that doesn't come with, the mount that you buy separately, the mount is good, or you can buy, of course, a separate aftermarket mount as well. But just the magnifier by itself, other than size and weight, don't have any complaints. It performed very, very well. So with that out of the way, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe before you leave. Let me know what you guys think of the Primary Arms 3X full-size magnifier in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off. Almost put it around through the camera. Almost.